Washington. They are not sworn in until tomorrow, but the new House majority has its guns trained already on repealing the president's health care law and cutting $100 billion from domestic spending this year. Incoming Michigan Republican Congressman Bill Huizenga will soon join the Financial Services Committee, a prime assignment. Welcome, Congressman. Welcome to Washington. Let's talk about your top priorities. First of all, how do you deal with this debt and coming up with specifics? What specifically can be cut in order to avoid the looming debt ceiling?
Well, first of all, thanks, Andrea, for having me on the show. I appreciate it. And there's a number of us very excited to be here. A friend of mine, Steve Sutherland from Florida, put it this way: we're tired of hitting the range balls. It's time to tee it up for real. And so I think you've got a lot of us very eager and ready to go do this. And getting to your question, you know, how do we deal with the debt, and how are we going to move forward from that? It seems to me there's two things that we really have to do. One is we have to deal with the deficit situation. What are we doing on an annual basis? Clearly, the last couple of years, it's been $1 trillion plus additions to that debt. And so we've got to first and foremost take care of that as we're going through the budgeting process. And then we also have to deal with that $14 trillion or nearly $14 trillion in long-term debt that we are saddling our kids and our grandkids with.
Now, you have the virtue of some experience because you worked for Pete Hoekstra, so you know a little bit about how things work. How much compromise do you think the new class is going to be willing to make, or should make, with the old way of doing things?
Yeah. Well, it's a three-legged stool, and it's the House of Representatives, it's the Senate, and it's the President. And at some point, we're going to have to come up with an agreement between those three legs of the stool. You know, I had a little bit of an advantage when I worked for Congressman Hoekstra. I was actually his district director. I was back in Michigan. It was my job to make sure that we were in touch with the people that got us there. And I think that helped me in this campaign as well. So there's, in that, you know, there is some different thinking that's happening out in the states. And it's time to apply that here. People don't quite understand how we got here, and they don't understand why we're going to continue to plow ahead with that. But they're looking for answers and solutions. They're really looking for answers, and regardless of party label, they want people to come together and do the right thing. Now, what is the right thing? That's the real question.
You know, I wanted to ask you about the prime issue. Clearly, you come from Michigan, 12.4% unemployment. You've got to be worried about jobs. What can you say to the people who elected you about anything, any roadmap to coming up with a jobs plan for Michigan, for the country?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's the private sector that creates prosperity, not the public sector. We have to be focused on making sure that the private sector can go out and create those jobs. And we're starting to see some of that. It was in the, I think, in the Washington Post today that there was talk about the amount of cash that's being built up in companies and what they're doing with that. And they unfortunately just don't feel secure enough to start investing it, and whether it's in people or in equipment and those types of things. So we have to create an atmosphere. I think that's really the job of the government, is to help create an atmosphere that's going to allow that private sector job creation to happen. And a lot of that is predictability and confidence. And we've given neither to them, frankly. There is no predictability in what we're going to be doing because we keep changing the rules on them. And the other thing then is that that confidence that we're heading in the right direction. And I think that's got to be what we start focusing on.
How big a factor is the Tea Party? You've got this huge new class. It's a 60-member new class of Republicans. How important is the Tea Party as a factor in what you do?
Well, it certainly is a factor, but let me make a little bit of a distinction. There's the Tea Party itself, and then there's Tea Party-minded people. A lot of people who are maybe not out at a rally and waving a flag, you know, a "Don't Tread on Me" flag, but they're very concerned about the debt that's being, you know, massed and the direction that we're going. So I think we've got to be dealing with both sides of that as we're moving forward. And again, I think that goes back to sort of the confidence. People don't have a confidence that the government, whether it's the local, state, or federal government, is really listening to them and understanding where they're coming from. You know, the same belt tightening that I had to do in my small little personal gravel company, or that we all have had to do as families, doesn't seem to be happening with governments at almost all of those levels. And that's the kind of thing that people are looking for as we're moving forward.
Well, Congressman, it's great to meet you. We hope this is the first of many interviews, and we'll touch base with you along the road and see how your perceptions change or don't change as the months and years progress. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And President Obama, as we say, back in Washington after his 2-week holiday in Hawaii.